You are not stuck because life is hard. You're stuck because you've been treating red lights like final verdicts, like the universe is giving you a report card, circling your failures in red ink, and whispering this is who you are. You've been arguing with stop signs, negotiating with roadblocks, spending your most alive years in the waiting room of your own existence, convinced that suffering is something that happens to you, rather than something that happens for you, if you're brave enough and patient enough and honest enough to let it. Matthew McConaughey spent years writing in diaries. Not for publication, not for therapy, not for you, for himself. And what emerged from those 35 years of notes and failures and comebacks and catastrophes wasn't a self-help book. It was a confession, a war map, a philosophy built from scar tissue. This video isn't a summary of Greenlights. This is a manual for getting out of the one trap that's keeping you exactly where you don't want to be, the trap of believing that a hard season means a wrong direction. Let's get into it. Here's the thing nobody tells you about ambition. It turns you into a terrible reader of your own life. You get so obsessed with what's supposed to happen next that you stop noticing what's actually happening now. And what's happening now, the rejection, the wrong turn, the fire, the humiliation, the year everything fell apart. That's not the story of your failure. That's the curriculum. That's the education. You just keep skipping class and wondering why you're not graduating. McConaughey opens this book with a framework so simple it should feel obvious. But it doesn't, because we're not wired for it. Green lights, things that go your way, momentum, flow, the right door opening at the right time. Red lights, obstacles, stops, doors slamming, plans collapsing, the year you wanted to forget. Yellow lights, warnings. Slow down. Pay attention. Something's shifting. Fine. Simple enough, right? But here's where McConaughey breaks your brain. Red lights, if you sit with them long enough, if you stop kicking and screaming and actually look at what they're teaching you, become green lights. The stop becomes a slingshot. The wall becomes a foundation. The worst year of your life becomes the raw material for the best decade of your life. And the people who figure that out, they stop managing their circumstances and start mining them. The people who don't, they spend their whole lives waiting for conditions to improve, waiting for a green light to arrive before they decide to be fully alive. Which one are you? In 1992, a 22-year-old kid from Uvalde, Texas, gets arrested. Drunk, naked, playing the bongo drums at 2 a.m. in his own house while neighbors call the cops. The mug shot runs in the papers. The internet doesn't exist yet, but the embarrassment is total and nationwide anyway. This is Matthew McConaughey, the same man who just had his breakthrough moment in Dazed and Confused, the guy everyone was betting on to become a major star. And now he's a punchline. He could have collapsed under it. A lot of people would have. He didn't. He used it. Not in a motivational poster way. Not in a haha, it was all part of the plan revisionist way. He used it by sitting with the discomfort until it told him something true. And what it told him was this: you've been performing. You've been living for the audience, not for yourself. And the audience is going to keep changing what they want from you. You won't. The psychological lesson here is brutal and worth tattooing somewhere painful. The things that expose you are also the things that free you, if you stop trying to bury them. Most people, when they get humiliated, spend enormous energy trying to control the narrative. They manage perception. They explain. They pivot. They rebrand. They exhaust themselves maintaining a version of themselves that never existed in the first place. McConaughey did the opposite. He leaned into his weirdness, his drawl, his chest beating, sun-drenched, slightly feral Texan energy that Hollywood kept trying to sand down into something more palatable. He stopped apologizing for what he was and started becoming more of it. And here's your application, the part where this stops being his story and starts being yours. What are you currently treating as a weakness that is actually just an unexplored version of your strength? What embarrassment are you still managing, still performing damage control around, that, if you just owned it completely, would become the most interesting thing about you? The red light was the arrest. The green light was the liberation from pretending. Stop for a second. Seriously, stop. Why are you still pretending that logic is what drives your choices? You didn't fall in love because of a spreadsheet. You didn't choose your career because it was the statistically optimal path. You didn't make your best decision on paper. You made it in a moment of gut-wrenching, inexplicable, embarrassingly irrational certainty. And then you spent months constructing a rational argument for it afterward. McConaughey calls this living in the unscripted life. It's one of the most terrifying and most important ideas in the book. The scripted life is the one you inherited, the one your parents wanted, the one society has a ready-made slot for, the one where every decision gets approved by a committee in your head made up of people who are scared of what other people think. The unscripted life is the one that terrifies you to say out loud. Here's the story. McConaughey gets offered rom-com after rom-com. After A Time to Kill, after Contact, after The Lincoln Lawyer, he keeps getting handed the same safe, charming, good-looking guy gets the girl scripts. The money is absurd. The comfort is complete. The trajectory is predictable. And he turns it all down. He goes dark for 2 years. No films. No deals. He moves to a farm. Lives in an airstream. He is, by Hollywood's logic, finished. Committing career suicide in the most public way possible. And then Dallas Buyers Club happens. And True Detective happens. And the McConaughey, that absurd, wonderful word, happens. Here's the psychological lesson. Comfort is the most sophisticated form of stagnation. Not hardship, not failure. Comfort, because hardship at least forces you to adapt. Comfort just makes you slowly, imperceptibly, perfectly numb. You stop growing because growth requires discomfort, and discomfort feels like failure, and failure is the thing you've spent your whole adult life learning to avoid. Your application, right now, today, where are you choosing the comfortable script over the terrifying unscripted moment? What's the version of your life that you've been too polished, too reasonable, too responsible to admit you actually want? The red light was the studio's disappointment. The green light was 2 years of living deliberately before the world caught up. Here's the trap inside the trap. Even people who know this stuff, who've read the books, done the therapy, sat in the meditation retreats, still fall for it. Still spend their present moment buried in autopsy reports of their past, or catastrophizing about a future that hasn't arrived yet. McConaughey talks about his father in this book in a way that will gut you. His father was a man of contradictions. A man who had exactly the same conversation with his mother repeatedly throughout their marriage. Their marriage of 32 years, twice. He had a ritual, an almost mythological one, of arguing with his wife. And they spent decades loving each other through those arguments. He died making love to his wife. That's either the greatest or most bizarre love story you've ever heard, and it doesn't matter. What matters is this. McConaughey's father was a man who did things his way, unambiguously, without apology, until the last possible moment. And that image burned itself into McConaughey's philosophy like a brand. The lesson: you will not get a do-over on the version of yourself you present to your own life. Not a soft lesson, a gut punch to your ego, because we all walk around with this secret conviction that we'll become who we're supposed to be later. When the timing is better, when the money is more stable, when the relationship is sorted, when the kids are older, when the business is done. Later is the most expensive lie you'll ever believe. Your application is the hardest one in this video, and I'm not going to make it easier for you. Name the thing you've been postponing because you're waiting for the conditions to be right. Now ask yourself what it would cost. Not financially, emotionally, what it would cost your soul to postpone it for another 5 years. Feel that? That's the yellow light. Slow down and pay attention. Let me bring this home. McConaughey's most important insight isn't about career. It isn't about Hollywood. It isn't about Texas or fatherhood or marriage or any of the gorgeous, gritty, specific details he packs into this book. It's this: the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself when things go wrong. Most people in a red light moment ask, why is this happening to me? That question is a dead end. It leads nowhere except self-pity or blame. McConaughey asks, what is this making possible? What is this forcing me to become? What door does this closed door force me to find? That is not toxic positivity. That is not pretending the pain isn't real. That is, instead, the most aggressive act of self-respect available to a human being. deciding that your circumstances do not get to author your story. That you do. The green light was never the absence of red lights. The green light was always the moment you stopped asking why the red light was there and started asking what it was making room for. That's the whole book. That's 35 years of diaries. That's the philosophy of a man who kept driving even when the road disappeared, especially when the road disappeared, because he trusted that the road was being built by the act of driving it. So what are you waiting for? The lights are always changing. The question is whether you're paying attention.